Wicked the movie is coming out, or it might already be out by the time you're watching this. As someone who enjoys musicals, I was of course aware of Wicked, the Broadway musical, though I was never a hardcore fan, I must admit. Although I do enjoy me a trip to Hadestown as I don my kinky boots and I bring Hamilton along. You're only gonna get this reference if you're familiar with musicals, I'm sorry. But anyway, a lot of people are really excited about Wicked the movie, starring Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo. The movie has been greatly anticipated, and pretty much every company under the sun has been jumping on the bandwagon, making their collabs and, Wicked-themed products. Some are more successful than others, some are more creative than others. I'm looking at you, Stanley. Really, Stanley? A pink and green ombre cup, that's the best you can do? Revolutionary. Wicked has also received some bad publicity. Most of you will probably be familiar with that. Be it because of Cynthia Erivo's reaction to a fan edit. Yes, she almost melted because a fan dared to edit the movie poster from this into this. Never mind that the edited version is much more intriguing and pays homage to the original Broadway musical poster. The big thing that you should be focusing on is the fact that you can't see the actress's eyes now, and that clearly means erasure. Then there was a lot of bad press regarding Ariana Grande's not-so-grande personal life. It's just your typical cheating allegations with someone you met on the set of Wicked, and your little affair ended up destroying their marriage and your marriage. But, that's a typical day in Hollywood. And the person that Ariana Grande fell for was Ethan Slater, SpongeBob himself. Yes, this guy played our favorite yellow sponge in SpongeBob the Musical. And he left his wife and newborn child to be with Ariana Grande. How's that for Wicked? But we are not really here to talk about that. I just wanted to give you a brief overview. We are here to talk about the good, the great, and the fabulous, and boy, are Wicked's costumes all of the above. We're going to briefly cover the main themes and inspirations for Wicked's costumes, going from Broadway to the movie, but we will pay special attention to one costume in particular, because everyone and their dog is obsessed with this dress, including me. This is the so-called bubble dress. I've been eagerly following people on the internet who have been talking about this dress, who have recreated it or are currently attempting to do so. Structurally, it's such a cool dress, and I do want to make something inspired by it. I don't know what yet, but if I do make it, you will see it. We will dive into the story behind this pink bubble dress, but first we're gonna look at the humble, though not so humble beginnings of Wicked costumes. Wicked, the 2024 movie, is based on Wicked the musical, and Wicked, the famous Broadway musical, is based on a book. The musical is a loose adaptation of a 1995 novel called Wicked, the Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West. And this book is based on a novel from the year 1900 written by L. Frank Baum titled The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. Baum's book was adapted into the iconic 1939 movie, Wizard of Oz, starring Judy Garland as Dorothy. And Wicked the musical is sort of a prequel, sort of a parallel extended universe of Wizard of Oz. The Broadway musical is told from the perspective of two witches, Glinda and Elphaba. It explores their friendship and, it takes place at the time before and after Dorothy's arrival in Oz. Now, every iconic musical needs iconic costumes, and Wicked certainly achieved that. The Broadway musical costumes were designed by Susan Hilferty, and she spoke about her inspirations in an interview that will be linked down below along with all other sources. For silhouettes, a big inspiration for Hilferty was the Edwardian era, and that makes sense considering that Baum's book was published in the year 1900. When you think Edwardian, just think late Victorian, think Titanic. This is the time from roughly 1900 to 1910. Some sources will say 1914, some will put it as late as 1919. Basically, with the onset of World War I, things started to shift. Hilferty talks about how she wanted to make a sharp distinction in terms of costumes between the two main characters. Elphaba is dark, grounded, connected to earth, and Glinda is the complete opposite, connected to the sky, light, bubbly. If we look at this dress for Elphaba from the Broadway musical, it's mostly black, but it's filled with color underneath, which Hilferty describes is supposed to be reminiscent of gemstones hidden under the earth. Quote, "The design of her dress is layers that are built with over 40 yards of fabric that are stitched together to have a continuous sense of being from the earth. It's created to look like the lines you would see in a chunk of earth." Beautiful. If we compare this to the Wicked 2024 movie costumes, those were designed by Paul Tazewell, we can see that Hilferty and Tazewell's approach to Elphaba are quite similar. They both wanted to incorporate the earth, nature, and darkness into Elphaba's look. Tazewell, for Wicked the movie, really liked this Victorian, late Victorian, early Edwardian silhouette, which he used for a lot of Elphaba's costumes. Possibly also because Victorian clothing was a bit more rigid, a bit more constricted, as opposed to the light and airy Glinda. It's also clear that Tazewell has a lot of respect for Hilferty's work, and while staying on theme, he also added his own interpretation of how to connect Elphaba to nature and to animals through her clothes.
She is also the advocate for animals. So I aligned her with nature. We've reinterpreted the underside of mushrooms as these swirling pleats that are applied onto the net of her blouse. If you look closely at her velvet bodice, you'll see fiddle ferns embroidered onto the surface of her waistcoat. I leaned into felting mainly because of its organic quality. The choice of black was because her mother passes very early in her life. Elphaba is kind of stuck emotionally.
I highly recommend you watch this whole video if this is something that you are interested in, because it's a real gem. It will also be linked down below. But now, on to Glinda's bubble dress. This is Glinda's bubble dress from the Broadway musical, and this is her dress from Wicked, the 2024 movie. They look quite a bit different, don't they? Well, there's a reason for it. Because in the 1939 film, Wizard of Oz, Glinda looks like this. And this is more or less the look that Tazewell drew his inspiration from for his design. But why are these both called the bubble dress, though? There isn't anything particularly bubbly about them, right? Well, in the 1939 movie, when Glinda meets Dorothy, she appears, or rather pops out of a bubble. Meanwhile, Glinda's first scene in Wicked the musical looks like this.
It's good to see me, isn't it?
Iconic. So, short explanation, this is the dress that she wears when she floats down inside a bubble. Bubbles, bubbliness, air, light, lightness, these are all words that we can tie to Glinda. As are fashion and popular. For the musical, Hilferty talks about how she wanted Glinda to be ahead of her time fashion-wise. And because she wanted high fashion for Glinda, she turned her eye to Dior. The dress that inspired Hilferty's light blue gown for the musical is iconic in and of itself. This is called the Junon dress. It was part of the 1994 to 1950 autumn-winter collection by Christian Dior. This dress wasn't just an inspiration for Hilferty. The design was referenced by other designers in their creations, as well as reinterpreted several times by different creative directors at Dior. Take a look at this Zuhar Murad look that Miley Cyrus wore to the 2009 Oscars. Look familiar? Well, it should. Or this 2010 John Galliano design for Dior. Then we have this modernized version by Dior, worn by Natalie Portman at the Cannes Film Festival in 2023. Or, most recently, Anya Taylor-Joy in this reinterpretation of the Junon dress designed by Maria Grazia Chiuri for, you guessed it, Dior. But now let's return to Paul Tazewell's design for Ariana Grande in Wicked the movie.
The first image is going to be from the 1930s film, and you see the silhouette and a very tall crown. Much of my inspiration was through this idea of bubbles and circular pattern and spirals. The silhouette is this big kind of fairy princess dress. We were looking at a Fibonacci spiral shape. So with the dress, we were looking at flat shapes that then, when they're spiraled around themselves, they start to create a specific shape.
It's clear, even just from the trailer, that Tazewell wanted to assign a specific color or color palette to Glinda and Elphaba. Elphaba, as we mentioned, usually wears blacks or these dark, muted gray tones, as opposed to Glinda, who is, at least in the trailer, pretty much always in various shades of pink. So it's no surprise that he went for a pink bubble dress as well, right? The beading on the dress looks gorgeous, and the way these flounces are structured, the way they fall. Just by looking at the dress, you can't quite tell how it's constructed. Like, you have to look at it from all angles to try and get a sense of how would you even put this on? I also kind of like the fact that there's nothing overtly bubble-like about the dress. There are little printed bubbles on it, but you can't really see them. You just see sparkle, sparkle, shine, shine, shine. And technically speaking, the flounces, or whatever you want to call them, they are technically circles folded up in this way so that they turn into this kind of shape when they sit on the dress, when they are attached onto the dress. So circle, bubble. Glinda's dress from the 1939 film, I would say, is the most bubble-like out of all of them. Yet somehow, visually, I still think that dress is the heaviest, because there is just so much going on. It's very big, very wide, there's a lot of fabric, the huge sleeves, the crown probably doesn't help with making it look light. The Broadway version is still probably my favorite, not only because I love blue and I'm partial to blue, but just because of the design, the cut, the silhouette it gives. It's just so gorgeous. But as I said, structurally speaking, nothing comes close to Tazewell's design. It makes me so happy to see love and dedication and real creativity go into a project like this. Because I think in modern entertainment, we are seeing more and more low effort, Rings of Power type things. Not as much effort and dedication and genuine love go into these things. So this is really refreshing. Let me know what you guys think about Wicked and its costumes. Are you planning on seeing the movie? Have you already seen it? Or did the actors completely put you off ever seeing the film with their antics and such? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to leave a like. Thank you so much for watching. Take care, and I will see you soon. Bye, guys.